What is your "we will never speak of this again" moment? I put my head in my friend's horse mask, only to realize it was where he left all of his used masturbation tissues. It was a bonding moment. I took 3 showers. Best friend and I had lots of sleepovers and roleplayed nights and wizards and ninjas and all sorts of crap. Once, when we went to bed, we talked and decided to roleplay husband and wife. We were both 12-year-old boys. We pretend kissed and we held each other and I dry humped his leg. About 5 minutes in, I came in my pajamas. I didn't tell him but said I was getting sleepy. We literally never spoke of that moment ever again. Nearly 20 years later, we're still best friends and he will never know that I came on his leg. Oh, he knows, he's just waiting for the right moments to jizz on your leg. Probably the time my good friend and I were like 8, maybe 9. We were playing Monopoly with his older brother, I think he was 12, and his buddy. Solid 2 hours goes by, then all of a sudden his brother pulls his dong out and just starts wanking it. So his friend decides to do it too. And my friend and I were just like, WTF is going on, rolled the dice and kept playing like they weren't doing anything. Honestly, I think we left soon after they didn't stop, and never mentioned it since. We were packing for a family vacation and I was looking for something and thought it might be in my parents' room. Walked in on my mom blowing my dad. The moment our eyes met was probably one of the most awkward moments I've ever seen. The time at college my friend Liz found out the condom fell off inside her the night before. Our other friend Rachel tried to help her fish it out, to no avail. I went with her to get the morning after pill that morning. The condom fell out later that day, and we never spoke of it again. Someone I worked with was showing me some pics on his phone of something he cooked over the weekend. He swiped too far and boom dong pic. We both made that coughing ahem noise. I took a few steps away, and we immediately continued the conversation as though nothing happened. He was testing the water. I am 100% sure it was 50% intentional. I once had stool so massive and dry that it would not come out. Using toilet paper, I could feel the tip of the large stool stretching out my butthole. I was on the toilet for 2 hours, pushing as hard as I did during labor and still, no progress. My husband went out to get stool softener for me, but I didn't think it would be enough. While I was on the toilet, I researched what this was on my phone and there's a word for it, can't remember, and it sometimes needs to be surgically removed. Needless to say, I was taking this seriously. I was crying by the time my husband got home and bless his heart, he offered to remove the stool from my butt using a gloved finger and Vaseline. He gave me the idea to do this for myself and it worked. It meant so much that he offered to do that for me, though, and neither of us have mentioned that day since. He loves the crap out of you. Mum was going through my dresser looking for items to donate. Didn't know she was going to be doing that. Walked in just as she found my celeb. She looked at it for a second like, WTF is this, while I stood there in horror. Once she figured it out, she looked at me with disappointment, got up, threw it into the trash bin and went back to looking for clothes to donate. While working for the local church's prisoner outreach program, my grandmother met a female inmate with whom she fell in love. Upon the inmate's release, her and grandma planned on running away together. Said inmate locked her in the closet and made off with all the cash she'd liquidated from her savings account. That's why my grandma had to work as the lunch lady at my middle school and why we've financially supported her whole life. Yep, nobody ever says anything. My dad took me to see the movie Face Off when I was 7. We walked out of the theater and he grabbed me around my shoulder. Never ever tell your mother we saw that movie. To foil an extortion plot, an FBI agent undergoes a face transplant surgery and assumes the identity of a ruthless terrorist. But the plan backfires when the same criminal impersonates the cop with the same method. I literally laughed out loud when I read the description for this movie. I used to stay at my best friend's house during college. He had 2 little brothers, both of whom were in junior high at the time. These boys shared a room. We wanted to invite them outside to toss the old pigskin around for a little bit. We enter their room to find that they were, to say, already throwing pigskins beside each other, looking at the same image on the computer. The image was of sandy cheeks and lingerie. We don't bring it up. F is for friends who do stuff together. My cousins had fricked in the same bedroom as all of the younger cousins were trying to sleep. To this day, you can do a little girl's giggle and say, "Haha, stop it," and watch all of the cousins that were there facepalm. When I was 13, I was at the mall and I had just ate pizza. Then the family went shopping. I decided to look at shoes. I thought I had a fart coming on and I farted. Immediately something wet hit my shoe. I had shorts on, and I had just crap all over my shoe and the floor. I walked out of the mall and sat outside until my parents found me, went home and threw away my cloths. Never spoke of it since. This happened back in my college days with my former best friend. We were invited to a housewarming party by this dude my friend had banged and wanted to bang again, so we agreed to go. The party was being thrown by two friends of his who had just moved into a place in our town. We get to the party and it's this super tiny 1-bedroom apartment. My friend and the dude quickly disappear into the one bathroom that was right off the small living room we were all sitting in. It's just me, the couple who just moved in, and 2 other guys. I know none of these people and feel so awkward sitting there trying to be cool while we all listen to my friend and theirs going at it in the bathroom. About 20 minutes later, dude runs out of the bathroom like a flash and out the door. I immediately rush into the bathroom and get hit with the smell of crap. Then spot it on the floor. My friend is a mess with her hair all disheveled and her makeup running. She just stares blankly at me, then says, "I crap." I said, "I see that." Still deadpan. She says, "I crap" on the floor and points to it like I can't freaking see it there. Apparently she wanted to give him a night to remember as he was younger and inexperienced, and so she told him to take the dirt road. Well, things didn't go as expected and he ran off when he realized his dong was covered in crap. But we left the crap on the floor and took off without a word and agreed to never mention it again. I crap. I'm literally crying over here. When my 2 best friends and I, let's call them Rory and Eva, were about 7-8, we used to have play dates, which would become sleepovers basically every weekend. It was to the point where we had changes of clothes kept in each other's house. One time, we were playing in the woods outside of Rory's house, and were told to go wash up and change before going to sleep. His parents probably meant one at a time, but I got the great idea that we should all shower together, reasoning that it would take less time. Had to get back to play on the Gamma Cube ASAP. We stripped down and realized very quickly that something was very wrong. Eva did not have a dong. We were very sheltered and had no inkling of a thought that there would be anything different down there for girls. We didn't even know that it was called a dong. We just saw that 2 of us had one and the other didn't. So obviously having something dangling down there was the norm. We spent the next 30 minutes telling her we still would be her friends, even though she didn't have a dong. We took the shower together, then played video games all night, and lived completely unfazed by the experience until physical ed 2 years later. We are seniors in high school now. While we still are pretty close friends, we definitely do not speak of that day. Please, 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 when you graduate, have you and your other friend look her in the eyes and tell her that even though you've all graduated and she still doesn't have a dong, you'll remain friends. Ordered a celeb on Amazon and forgot to change the address. The last address used was my parents', so the celeb arrived and of course I had failed to specify a first name on the package, so mum opened it assuming it was for her. Freaking awkward. I left my celeb in a bag that I left in my room at home. Didn't think about it. The next time I was at home, my grandmother had apparently cleaned my room top to bottom and emptied the bag. She left the hot pink celeb on my chair, just out in the open. Presumably it had been there for months while I was gone. Thanks, Grandma. No one has ever said anything about it to me. Thank goodness. One of my first adult experiences. My friend and I used experiment a lot, and one night I let her frick me with a light up lightsaber. My tea looked rainbow. I got off really hard, and she couldn't stop laughing at me. What's worse is it was her brother's toy. It was painfully awkward. When my just barely 3-year-old son was embarrassed, he peed his pants while his friends were over. So he hid his pee pants and came out of the bathroom naked. Proceeded to play with his friends, climbing up on the table and accidentally whacking one of the little girls on the head with his dong. She screamed, and that's when we realized he was naked. If those 2 ever dated, will be the best, most embarrassing story ever. The mothers were horrified, but the other dad and I had to leave the room to try and contain our laughter. Don't know why they were horrified. That sort of crap just comes with having multiple toddlers in one room. Years ago my best friend and I were out at a club that was one of the hottest places to be seen at the time. She has struggled with her weight her whole life. She's a big girl. We spy a place to sit. No easy task. It was a small booth with a bench in the middle. Classic nightclub setup. I take a seat on the booth and she sat down on the bench and it broke. Loudy. She tumbled to the floor, spilling her drink and fighting off tears. She bolted out the door. All 125 pounds of me found the manager and informed him that I broke the bench and he should have it removed before someone tripped on the busted side. He apologized and cleared my tab. I found her by the car. We just got in and went to our favorite dive bar. This was 11 years ago. We have never spoken about it. No, I didn't take this from shallow hell. It happened in a bar in Northern California. I don't need to help her lose weight by pointing out what she eats or her lack of exercise. It's 2015 and she isn't stupid. She knows what causes obesity. You're a good friend. And that's a surprisingly friendly nightclub manager. When I was at my best friend's house during summer, the three of us were all hanging out in the pool when my had to go inside to check on the food. Well, stupid best friend decided to jump into the shallow end and hurt herself. Her top came off from the splash and she was screaming in pain. So, being a good guy, I rushed over to help her. But of course my walked outside the moment I had my arms around her trying to get her out of the pool, with her top off, screaming. Not only was it a "this is not what it looks like" moment, but it was pretty awkward holding her without a top on while she was wet. I had moved recently out of my parents' house and my mother was helping me out by packing up my room into boxes. She called to say if I knew where the key was to my computer desk. I had it, and that particular drawer I knew for a fact had PMags locked in it from when I was a frisky teenager. I told her, "Hey, I have it, no worries, I'll open it when I visit in a few weeks." Phew. Crisis averted. She calls back later that day to tell me she found the dang spare key in my room. I didn't even know I had a spare key. I can hear the amusement in her voice and she just says, "I made sure your things were packed up nicely. Came to visit and the drawer was locked and my pee stash was still there, in a neat pile." Mum never brought it up with anyone. She's a cool mum. My mom thinks it's a cute story to tell people that she caught me when I was 12 with pee and made me highlight Bible verses as punishment. And she wonders why I don't call super often. My very overweight cousin fell on the family cat and killed it. No one said a word about it. They just took it away and no one ever mentioned it again. Yes, I totally agree that many different shapes and sizes could kill a cat if you laid on top of it long enough. I just have a ton of resentment towards this particular cousin because he used his weight to bully my brother and I when we were kids. Also, I have no idea how much he would have weighed, but he was a massive 10-year-old. I have memories of him trying to put on a wetsuit to go in the ocean and it makes me shudder. It's so depressing to bury your own cat though. Was buying a house and needed to have the last 90 days bank account statements printed out for mortgage lender. My mom was helping me through this process and also got the call from lender. She calls me and needs the password to my bank account so she can print out the info. Password: $420 $X69. Never has this ever been brought up ever again. Yes, I did spell it out for her hoping that would make it a little less awkward. Doctor, the baby is crowning. If you'd like to reach in and feel her head, just slowly slide your fingers up into your wife and you'll feel it. Me. Internal monologue. Wow, it is really slippery down there. I can't believe I'm sticking my fingers into my wife's V-spot with other people looking on. Especially my mother-in-law. I wonder what she thinks. Man, that seems kind of tight. Doctor, Mr. Dagonakit. That's not her tea. That's her back door. Me. For the next 20 years, I wonder what my mother-in-law is thinking now. Bonus mother-in-law. Jesus H. Christ, how did she ever get pregnant? I got really drunk once and sent my gay friend a video of me masturbating. That was hard to explain. BC I don't remember it, so I don't even know that it was an accident, which means I might be gay when I'm drunk. And B, a super weird friend lunch a few days later. BC, he sent me a dong pic thinking our relationship was about to blossom in the benefits category. We're totally cool now, but it is definitely something we don't ever bring up, ever. I've never told a single person this, so naturally I felt putting it on the internet was a good idea. I was being intimate with a guy who happened to have a bad cold at the time. I'm lying on my back, like you do in these situations, and he's above me, and at some point I realize that there is snot coming out of his nose and going into my nose. I didn't want to embarrass him, so I did nothing. If he was aware that it happened, he didn't acknowledge it, and I wasn't willing to bring it up. It's horrifying to remember, to this day. That's not funny. I kicked a hole in my sister's door when I was 13 because she stole my Britney Spears CD. We covered the hole with a poster and didn't tell my parents about it until we moved rooms when I was 18. My parents weren't exactly pleased, but we couldn't get in trouble for it because of how much time had passed and because we were both technically adults by then. One night my best friend roommate and I decided to get pee-wasted. My friend hating beer decided he was gonna mix vodka with a chaser. Now of all the chasers in the world it had to be apple juice. We both ended up blacking out and the next morning I woke up to the worst smelling smell of all shit story. Walk into my bud's room with him just standing over his poo-riddled bed. After 40 seconds of unbroken eye contact, he looked as though he had just came back from Nam with the 7-mile stare. His face said it all. A straight friend of mine got drunk and got a BJ by a guy who pretends to be Irish. The whole time my straight friend was saying things like, "Dude, you're like touching my dong. Whoa, that's so gay. Put it in your mouth, you fake Irish frick." They were in the room over from where I was, but I could hear everything. The next day I went into the living room and made eye contact with him. He just said, "We will never talk about this." He tells everyone he hates the kid now and doesn't hang out with him. The dialogue really ties this story together. If I recall correctly, I was about 7 and was at Disney World with my mom, sister, and stepdad. Well, being young and not really able to hold a full 20 ounces of water for very long, I declared I had to go to the bathroom. Stepdad, being the sarcastic dong that he is, tells me to pee on a tree. So, being that we were crossing an area that, conveniently enough, had potted bushes, I dropped throw and proceed to pee. My parents freaked out a bit and just sort of tried to shield me with their bodies until I finished. They probably aren't aware that I even remember this incident, but we certainly haven't spoken of it. Transfer student, with only like a handful of friends, still in the closet, but experimenting with men here and there. Go to a party with a couple friends. Find a gay guy. Things get wild. Everyone goes to bed. We rip our clothes off and hook up on the stairwell leading to the garage. We hear footsteps. Everyone's calling my name out trying to find me. I run underneath one of their cars, naked. They find me. I pretend to be blacked out. They carry me upstairs while naked. They never mentioned it again. What if the dude told your friends what happened and where to find you, and they still never mentioned it? I was dating a girl who had 2 small kids, and they were all staying at my apartment for a while. The smaller kid, a boy of about 2 or so, came walking out of my room with a butt plug in his mouth that we'd left on the windowsill next to the bed straight from her pooper the night before. Horrified doesn't begin to describe my state of mind. Hope that kid likes E. coli. I was at the beach with some friends and we were walking around the boardwalk. We went into a store and there was this old guy working and we all started making small talk. He was a complete jokester and it was actually hilarious. Turns out he was a pastor and he just enjoyed working and visiting with tourists. Anyways, he told us to be sure to come say goodbye before we left. We went back the day we left and it went something like this. Me, "Hey, we're all leaving. Nice to meet you and we'll see you next year." Him, "Oh, well I might not be here next year." Me, "Oh, are you going to be dead or something?" Him, "Actually, I have terminal cancer." Me, "My friends gave me so much crap for that, and I felt so bad for a while. But in my defense, he was making all sorts of jokes the first time we all talked to him, so I was going along with that sort of attitude. We went back for beach week this year and he wasn't there. TLDR. I made a dying joke to her old guy who actually had terminal cancer. He probably thought it was funny, tbh. Traveled thousands of miles to a concert for a band's farewell tour. Fell asleep during said loud rock concert. My husband and I had to leave early for being old and vowed never to speak of it again. Fooled around with a distant cousin once. Nothing serious. Not only did we never speak of it again, we haven't spoken at all since. Also, a friend of mine was in the room at the same time too. It's like two never speak of it again stories for the price of one. When I was a kid I walked in on my mum and stepdad fricking twice. Both times I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of moaning coming from their bedroom, so thinking there might be some kind of emergency I went in to see what the matter was. Fool me once, shame on you. My sister had a somewhat hairy back for her age, around 8-9, and one day she asked me to shave it for her, so we hopped in the shower and I took a razor to her back. The first shave I got a rather large lump of hair that left a bare line down her back. We kind of got freaked out and just dropped everything and never did again. I was taking my girlfriend out in NYC on her birthday. Things were getting serious. First birthday celebration together, didn't want to frick it up. We get drinks, get dinner, all is grand. After dinner we head over to an annoyingly hip bar. We walk in and something deep in my gut growls. I knew instantly that I was going to crap myself. Cold sweat breaks out in the middle of this insanely and illegally packed bar. The exit is farther than the bathroom, so I fight my way to the bathroom, losing the girlfriend in the process. As I approach, someone else mercifully comes out and I walk into a typically disgusting NYC bar shitter. Bolt lock engage, I turn and drop trow in one motion and spray hot liquid crap across the little converted closet bathroom. I managed to maintain a death grip on the doorknob and hang my geysering anus out beyond my pants and feet as I completed my bowels baptism. The ham-sized knot in my bowels was gone. I felt new again. The little trash can in the back wall never knew what hit them and would never be the same. I was physically and visibly unmarked by this experience. I zipped, flushed, took one last fleeting look at the horror I had created and walked out. Found my girl. Told we had to go. When she asked why, I said all serious, we have to go. So we did, and we continued on with our lovely birthday evening. Years later we are married and this story came up. I had never told her why we had to run out that night. She assumed it was because I ran into an old girlfriend or something. She probably still wishes she thought that. My 5-year-old sister found my cock ring. Proceeded to take it to my mother with it vibrating, asking, "What is this, mummy?" I give my all to avoid this being mentioned in conversation. When my wife and I were on a road trip years ago, before we got married, we were driving along in the middle of nowhere and I noticed that the vehicle in front of us started to drift. Not wanting to be behind this vehicle if something went wrong, I naturally began to pass up that vehicle. I remember looking at the driver as we passed, so briefly that I couldn't tell the gender. A few moments after we pass the vehicle, I look in my mirrors and exclaim, "Holy crap, hun, they're about to hit the guardrail." We both look into our mirrors just in time to see the vehicle narrowly miss the guardrail and barrel off a 40-ish degree slope down into the ditch and presumably into the tree line. I was so shocked by what I had seen, so paralyzed by my questioning of if what I just saw was what I thought I saw, that I just kept driving. That's what gets to me. I just kept freaking driving. WTF was wrong with me? If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.